Dreams can be such a strange place. Trying to understand them unearths more questions, ones that can only be answered by a dream itself. Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to Cosy Reads. I hope you've all been keeping well. Welcome back to this series, The Lovers. In today's episode, we'll be following the man as he makes his way through the weird and wonderful dream realm with the imp, trying to make sense of where he is. So without further ado, let's dive in. As the man and the imp traversed the dreamscape, the imp was able to skip along without a care in the world. It was clear that this place was its home. At the very least, it had mastered the inner workings of this world. The man struggled behind, barely able to keep up with the imp. The floor, while it allowed him to move, still applied a certain pressure on him that felt like gravity had increased. The walls still bent and twisted in such a way that it became almost impossible to know what a wall was and what wasn't. There was no divider between the wall and the floor. It all melded together in a cacophony of shapes and design. The corridors and hallways seemed to be endless, moving in such a way that the place seemed like a maze. At first, the man was overwhelmed with what he saw. The place seemed like a maze, like a fever dream, like someone had thrown up a Salvador Dali or Picasso all over, and the artwork had melded into the scenery. He knew this place was a dream, but the deeper he went, the more he realized this place truly was not real. Eventually, he started to enjoy the place. He found it beautiful with its strange flora and fauna. The place was slowly growing on him. From the trees that grew and stretched in such curious ways to the flowers that lay in beds of bright and bodacious colours, this place had an enigmatic feel to it. He was also drawn to the animals, with their strange chirps and cries, moving about on appendages that ranged from bipedal to quadrupedal, that is, creatures that walked on all fours, to creatures that had 6 legs, and ones that had 5 arms but would use 3 to walk with smaller legs dangling off. These creatures came in all shapes and sizes, varying in colour and appearance. If not for a dream, the man would have thought he was on an alien world. But is that not what a dream truly is? And his little imp guide was quite curious. He had read about imps in fairy tale books, read about how mischievous they could be, about how lively and sprightly they were, and how they usually would not cause much harm, but can still trick you if you let your guard down. This imp in front of him, however, while it gave off an air of being lively and energetic, it seemed very well spoken and refined in its demeanour. He still wasn't sure if he could trust it, but he got the feeling that it was not trying to harm him. He just hoped he was right. So, Mr. Wakewalker, what brings you here anyway? The imp suddenly chirped up. The man looked forward at the imp, still bounding and strolling down the road, and he pondered on what it said for a moment. Was the imp implying that it didn't even know why he was there? If that's the case, then why did it persuade him to follow it? It seemed like it was taking the man to a specific place, but wouldn't it have knowledge of the person that it was bringing in? That's a good question. I'm not too sure myself, to be honest with you. I thought you might have an idea as to why I'm here. When I was awake, I was with my girlfriend in her hospital room. I just finished reading her a story when my eyes started to feel heavy. Sleep had quickly come for me, and my best efforts could not fend it off. I fell asleep with my head still resting next to her on her bed. The last thing I saw was a man, or I believed to be a man, standing at the corner of the room. I couldn't fully make out his features. It seemed like they were cloaked in shadow, and so trying to see them probably wasn't going to happen. However, I do remember they mouthed something before I fell asleep. I'm no lip-reading expert, however, so I couldn't make out what the individual said. Anyway, I fell asleep, and the next thing I knew, I woke up here. I thought this place was just one of my dreams, and so I tried everything to wake myself up, but to no avail. And that is the story of my journey here, the man answered the imp. Good story, but did you say you saw a man cloaked in shadow before arriving here? The imp asked the man. Yes, I did. I probably just imagined him though. I put it down to my mind seeing things that aren't there as I was drifting off to sleep. It's just that I'm sure I saw him mouth something off before I fell asleep. That's what's been throwing me. Why would I imagine someone standing there trying to talk to me? It almost seemed like they were reacting to me falling asleep. Maybe my mind manifested an image of me, and maybe it was myself talking to me like a conscious thing. The man explained. He was still trying to figure out what he had seen, and he also wondered why this imp seemed so interested in the Shadow Man. Well, now that changes things a lot. The imp seemed far more serious. He wasn't speaking in that strange way that he had been up until now. In fact, he seemed far more coherent this time. Almost as if the thought of this shadow person was far more of a concern than the man realised. And then, just like that, the imp snapped back into his weird, cryptic speech. Well, that can't be helped or hindered. We have ground to cover, as it won't walk on itself. Well, not in these parts anyway. If we were in Asphalt... I'm trailing off. Need to catch myself before I lose myself. Anyway, we have permission from the ground to walk on. Let's not abuse that permission, so we must make haste, the imp explained before hopping up and skipping its way forward. The man didn't even have time to ask questions as the imp was already covering quite a bit of distance, and the man did not feel like being left alone in a place like this. And that brings chapter 3 of this story to an end. I hope you've all enjoyed this story and are enjoying this new series. The dreamscape can be such a fantastical and wondrous place. It changes from person to person, so everyone's dreamscape is different. But one thing is certain, when you are in your dreamscape you can do anything. It's the world of your creation, whether that is for the better or worse. But what happens if you enter someone else's dreamscape? Well, that's a question that we'll have to answer in our future stories. So until then, stay tuned for the rest of our story and see what it truly means to traverse a dream. And with that, I hope you have all sufficiently warmed up and that this story has brought you some level of comfort. I wish you safe travels on the journey of life, and feel free to come back again whenever you need a new story to warm your day.